Welcome to the Laughter Clinic podcast with comedian and suicidologist Mark McConville, bringing you practical, evidence-based self-care strategies, the latest research in mental health, along with conversations that inspire, educate, and entertain. This is the Laughter Clinic podcast with your host, Mark McConville.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, or friends and family, wherever you are listening around the planet, to the Life Skills Masterclass series of the Laughter Clinic podcast. Jodi Allen joining me again for episode number 2. How you going, Jodi?
I'm great. Happy to be here.
Happy to be here. Happy to have you here. So for those of you that tuned in last week to episode 1 of the Life Skills Masterclass, you would know that we covered the foundation trio of self-awareness and coping with stress and problem solving. And this week, Jodi, we are talking about thinking. We're all about thinking this week, aren't we?
Yes.
Critical thinking.
Creative thinking and
Decision making. That's right, because we've all got decisions that we've got to make, don't we?
Yes, we do.
Right? So talk to us about these 3 skills, Jodi, and why they all go together, these 3.
Well, we look at these skills that they're not just for leaders. So we're all making decisions, the average person makes up to between 33,000 and 35,000 decisions a day, research says.
Really?
Around 200 of those are around food. I reckon 10,000 of mine are around food, but just saying. But we're looking at so we've got critical thinking. It helps us to evaluate and analyse. Mm-hmm. Creative thinking helps us to generate options.
Yeah.
And decision-making helps us to make a choice out of those. So
an informed choice.
An informed choice, yes. Yeah. Nice.
I like that.
Yes, nice. Different, unusual. So these skills are going to build...
I have been called both of those things too, actually.
So these skills are going to help us build on our episode 1 foundation.
Awesome. So, great. I love it. And I love the fact that, once again, we've got 3 that interlock beautifully together, 3 life skills. So what is critical thinking is where we're going to kick off. So critical thinking has been described as an ability to question, to acknowledge and test previously held assumptions, and to recognise ambiguity, to examine, interpret, evaluate, reason and reflect, and to make informed judgments, and decisions. Well, really you're making informed decisions here is what we're talking about. And to clarify and to justify your position. I'll give you, I think, what is a perfect example of how you can sum up critical thinking is a lawyer. A lawyer is being one of the reasons I think lawyers make great comedians. They do, in actual fact. Lawyers make great comics because they understand the art of rhetoric.
Yeah,
right? They understand the importance of being able to argue both sides of one situation.
Yeah.
They're trained in it.
Yeah, I never thought of it like that.
That's critical thinking, Do you argue for the defendant, or do you argue against the defendant?
Yeah.
And you've got to be able to.
They have to be prepared for what's coming from the other side.
That's right. And, and I think critical thinking. I think that's an excellent example of what it would be like in the real life. You know what I mean? Being able to evaluate information objectively, is a big thing. So critical thinkers question the information sources that they're getting as well, which is a big thing, like we're constantly being bombarded with news and all this sort of stuff from, like I did an episode a couple of weeks ago which was, should we watch the news?
Oh, and that's a big one.
Yeah, it is a big one. And, talking about what are the sources of your news, and what are the, but in this instance, critical thinking, we're talking about what are the sources of your information.
Yeah.
I think going to uni, one of the big things it really highlighted for me was the importance of evidence.
Don't we? Yeah. Yeah. Because we're in an information overload world. Where are we getting our sources from is very important.
Yeah, evidence. Evaluate evidence. This is where we're critically thinking here, my friends, and we're drawing logical conclusions on the evidence that we've found. So that's where we're critically thinking, evaluating different biases, evaluating different different sides of the same question. It's because we do have cognitive biases, don't you think?
Yes. So I always talk about this when I'm talking about nutrition, confirmation bias. So that's often we will seek out information that is already aligns with what our current beliefs are. And in the way of nutrition, if I want to go keto, well, you'll find all the information. If you look for it, you'll find all, what's amazing about it, what's great for it. You'll find all of that if you're seeking that out and you believe that that's the best, diet that you want to try, as an example.
Yeah.
So we will often, and you can see that, without going too deep into the political world right now, is people will often already have a belief system or who they're aligned with, and they will seek out all the information that confirms their belief. And
confirmation
bias.
Yeah.
And the availability bias too is, we can often just accept whatever information is in front of us, especially if you use social media as an example. Mm-hmm. You only have to look at one video and then, the algorithm will go, oh,
they like videos
Jodi,
of that, yes.
Yeah. Most of mine are of cats and dogs doing crazy.
That's right. I do remember you. Yeah.
That thankfully that is a lot of my feed because they make me chuckle.
Yeah.
And
your own little laughter library.
Yeah, my own little laughter library. So I think so. For me, that's increasing the availability of that information. So I'm going to keep seeing it come up, and that happens a lot in whatever. If you're going down a political doom scrolling at the moment, your feed will be, whatever's initially started attracting your attention, it will all be directed at that. So then you can be getting a very biased information that already matches what I was talking about, our confirmation bias. So it then becomes very hard for us to make informed decisions about what we even believe in when we're only exposed to one viewpoint.
Yeah. And along those lines, it also circles back to something that I did bring up in the Should You Watch the News episode, was with all of this information, and like you said, the algorithms showing you this, that, and the next, and there was a mate of mine that brought this up, and it was like, well, you got to ask yourself at some point, am I being informed here or am I being manipulated?
Yeah. Yes.
Which
really
is
important.
Which is a whole other podcast, But because we could really go down that rabbit hole for it. But here we're talking about analysing information, critical thinking. Because it can be information overload. It can be too much sometimes, can't it?
And even it's not just politics, it's even what we buy. I went to visit one of my girlfriends and it was hilarious because our Instagram feeds are with similar cleaning products and things and olive oil. I'm like, I got that. Yeah, I've got that. you find that on Instagram? I'm like, oh my God, we've been so sucked into the marketing vortex because I'm like, oh, that's so cute. Yeah, I got that. Yeah, Instagram. Yeah, Instagram. That doesn't really work. Instagram. And we're like, oh, we've just been so sucked into it. But it's, what it's popping up. Oh, Jodi likes natural cleaning products. We're just going to, here's a new one. Oh, yeah, I'll buy that. New olive oil. Oh, yes, I'll try that. So we're constantly being force-fed, marketing and political agendas and all that kind of stuff. So, it's a rabbit warren, isn't it?
Oh, it's too much. So let's talk about how we critically analyse, like some questions for, like being critical. Being questioning. Questioning information is critical thinking, really, isn't it? At the end of the day.
And another word I like to use is curiosity.
Curiosity.
Yeah, I love.
How can we get that on a bumper sticker?
I love having conversations with people and opening up curiosity about things and having healthy debate about things and that as well. But if we want to be hard line, what is the critical things we need to ask ourselves and critical questions, but being a bit curious as well about what is the source of the information that is in front of me. And we do this a lot in evidence-based practice.
Is it a trustworthy source?
Is it a trustworthy source?
And the just on that, because we've both done enough research on different topics over the years to know that if you really wanted to, you could find a research study that will argue for this, X, Y, and Z, and you'll find a research study that will equally and as diligently argue against X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And so critical thinking is very important when it comes to this sort of stuff, isn't it, really?
Yeah, and I'll always go, to the end of the study, who paid for the study?
Biases, yeah.
Yep. How many participants were in the study? Sometimes, we studied 8 people and we've come to this conclusion. Well, that's, that might need some further study. So that's it. It's, what's the source of the information? Who is saying this? What's their expertise? What's my saying that my dad says about an expert?
It's a drip under pressure. An X is a has-been and a spurt is a drip under pressure.
Yeah.
My man used to say the same thing, actually.
It must be
goes, never call yourself an expert,
it's
son. I'm like, all right, no worries.
Never, ever. You will not see in any bio or anywhere where I will call myself an expert.
Oh, shit, I might have written in the bio, Jodi, I'm an expert. No, I'm only joking.
Dad's going to have a go at me about that.
So,
and what is their agenda? What is the agenda of the person or the product or, this information source? Are they marketing something to you? Are they selling you something?
Yeah.
Or are they trying to get you to sign up? What is – it's digging deeper with that.
Do you need new olive oil?
Do you need this olive oil? Yes, I do. Go through gallons of it. And then –
you're supposed to cook with it, right? Not bathe in it.
Oh, it's great for your skin as well.
Okay, all right. Moving right along.
What's the evidence? Is it opinion or fact? Which is always an interesting one. Can I another favourite of my dad's?
Go for it.
And it'll say, is this opinion or fact? And my dad's, I say this probably every day, opinions are like arseholes. Everyone's got one.
That's right.
It's my favourite, because the amount of people that want to give you their opinion.
Unfortunately, some are louder than others. is my footnote to that saying.
But it's so true. Everyone's got an opinion but is it based on a feeling or emotion, or is it based on facts? What is the data? As evidence-based, we love a bit of data. Yeah. Is the evidence credible? Not to take away also from anecdotal evidence. There's plenty of, sometimes there's things I recommend that there might be not a whole wealth of scientific evidence behind it. If it's been something that's been around for, forever and a day, and anecdotally people find improvement from it.
Well, that's where I live in the laughter clinic space, because I got asked if I wanted to go and do a PhD into, using humour as a protective, getting it included in lists and all this sort of stuff. And I'm like, I want to be out there in the world, doing that. I'm not an academic, right?
Yeah.
So I have tons of evidence, but so much of it is anecdotal, because I've got people coming up to me at live presentations going, this was great, I really need it. You've seen it when we come out and do it with the program, the people that, and that's still evidence.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is real world
Well, if we were doing
evidence.
a real world study at the time, it would be, we've got 15 participants that are all laughing. That is, that's our study group.
Yeah.
We're seeing it in front of us. So, it can be.
So when you say, when we're talking about evidence, is the evidence credible is something that is really, everybody's got to make that own decision themselves, really, at the end of the day, don't they? They really need to.
Yeah. And another big thing too is, what are the assumptions? What's being assumed as true? Are these assumptions valid? What if the assumptions are wrong? Often we make decisions based on an assumption that can be completely incorrect without looking deeper into it. Alternative explanations. This is also, comes from making assumptions in that as well. Could this be interpreted differently? What other perspectives exist? And am I considering all angles, which is, super important when, again, ties into awareness, self-awareness.
Yeah.
Am I making assumptions? Have I considered the perspective of, say it's involving another person, have I thought about their perspective in this? And what are the implications? If it's true, what follows? What are the consequences? And does this make logical sense to me? So sometimes we're taking in information, and in our gut or our intuition, which we often can ignore, that doesn't really feel or sound right to me. But we may gloss over that and not tune into it. And how often people will say, I made the wrong decision there. I should have listened to my gut. There's a couple of big decisions in my life where I look back and think, I should have listened to my gut there, because my gut was saying, Jodi, this is not probably the best decision to make. But I then come up with no, it's not that bad. No, it'll be okay, where I should have listened to my gut. And I reckon a lot of people will resonate with that.
Yeah. Yeah, because our gut and our head are constantly in,
communication with each other.
Logic versus, what the heart feels or whatever it is, you know what I mean? And it's just, I think that's a battle that's going on amongst billions of people out there right now. So going, should I, shouldn't I, do it, don't do it?
Yeah, we get in our head.
Yeah, and the unfortunate thing is that it leads to, there's been so many podcasts I've listened to recently where they talk about, regret. Do you regret making, what was it? The regret comes from not doing anything, understanding that the decision to not make a decision is a decision in itself.
Yeah.
Or
That's a word salad,
something along those lines. We'll get to decision making shortly. That was me bit of creative thinking, which is our next topic, right? So I was putting all those words together beautifully. I think one of the big things about critical thinking is looking at as many viewpoints as you can, isn't it? Trying to, if you're 100% on one thing and you're only seeing that, if you're really analysing something critically, you've got to flip it on its head and go, well, if I was looking at this from the other person's point of view, or that other company's point of view, or whatever, what does that look like?
Yeah.
And it's real world stuff. We've got to take into consideration how the other side's feeling. That is, or how evidence can be stacked to support something, how evidence can be stacked against it. Like you're saying, what's the agenda, what's going on, what's behind the scenes. So critical thinking, very important. It helps us evaluate. But at the same time, while we're evaluating ideas, and situations, we also need to generate new ones, right?
Yeah.
Which is the beautiful segue into creative thinking.
Yes.
Love creative thinking.
That.
This is my jam.
Oh, is it? Because I found after being, a young person and in the military, I found creative thinking on the other side as a civilian and going into business. I found it really hard because from a teenager, I was told what to do, when to do it. And then when I was a supervisor, I was, this is the job we've got to do. You guys have got to do that. This is our role. So for me, there wasn't a lot of exposure to creative thinking or thinking outside of the box.
Isn't that interesting? Because
that's my personal
from an outsider's point of view, that has had nothing ever to do with any military training whatsoever. It would, like I said, from an outsider's point of view, I would think that they would want to train their recruits in the military to be able to think creatively, because you've got to, you've got to critically analyse, situations that can be life and death, but sometimes it's going to take a creative decision to someone thinking creatively to get yourself out of the shit.
Yeah, I think absolutely. And I'm not sure, obviously I've been out for a long time and I'm only going through my experience. But yeah, that was just for me and my exposure and the time and the places that I worked, it wasn't a lot of creative thinking.
Yeah, right. Well, so let's talk about creative thinking, because, it's not just for artists, because creative thinking is generated all around us. When you're cooking a meal, that's creative thinking. What's gonna go with what, and how you're gonna do this, and when you put it on the plate, how you want it to look or whatever. If you're, remodeling your house, you've just moved house and you're setting up your new lounge room, that's creative thinking. How you going, where you're going to hang that painting on the wall, or creative thinking is everyone's creative. At some point in your life, you are using the creative thinking skill, and it is a skill. It is a life skill. It's, some people say it's a talent, you're naturally talented or whatever, but thinking creatively can be learnt, That's why we have arts degrees and design degrees and all this sort of stuff, and learning about creativity. I think living a creative life is, I love it. Like I believe that I live quite a creative life because, aside from doing stand-up and performing, live, putting these podcasts together, I have my bonsai trees, right? So don't judge me. I like my bonsai trees, and even like my big fish tank. I've got a 550-litre fish tank, and even when I'm setting up all the rocks and all that sort of stuff,
you're in the zone.
I'm zoning out.
Yeah.
It's all creative.
Yeah.
And
it's giving yourself the opportunity to tap into your creativity too, isn't it? Do you think as often, we can be quite creative when we're young, but then life gets in the way? I often see participants on our program that, I used to love drawing, or I used to love crocheting, or I used to love painting, and I used to love playing music, but life kind of gets in the way and they, let go of their creativity.
I think that can have a lot to do with your surroundings, because your surroundings, you're either surrounded by people that will encourage you to be creative and support your creativity.
It's not always the case.
No, it's not always the case. What are you doing that for?
Yeah. And it can also be seen too, sometimes with the guys of, if they've got a young family, for me to do my creative endeavours, it takes me away, so it's, well, if this is a resetting, being in that creative space is really good for you and your mental health, then, is there a way that you can fit it in, without the guilt around it? So it can be challenging for some people to be able to make the space to tap into their creative thinking.
Yeah. I like the fact that you brought up the guilt there, because we really want to I know it's getting off topic here for the creative thinking, but, we really implore people to not guilt trip themselves when they're doing something for themselves, self-care wise.
Yeah, it's hard.
It is hard.
Especially,
when you've got a family and you've got little kids you got to look after and all that sort of stuff. And, I've had so many people over the years go, mate, I haven't got time to go and do that. I haven't got time to go and play golf. I haven't got time to do this.
Yeah.
I've got all this shit going on. And it's interesting that I'm going to tell this story. It does get off topic, but I think it's an important story to tell, because it can highlight you what's in our head versus what everybody else is seeing, right?
Yeah.
So I was working on a cruise ship after the gig, because I mentioned about laughter clinic stuff. A couple of days later, I was still on the ship and I had this gentleman come up and we were sitting there chatting away, and he was telling me how the cruise is the first thing that he'd done with his family after he'd been in hospital for 1.5 years because he'd attempted suicide.
Oh, goodness.
Right?
That's a long time.
Yeah. And the cruise was his first thing out with the family and all this sort of stuff. And we ended up chatting for 3 or 4 hours one afternoon, and we're talking about, I was saying about, he was talking about what led him up to wanting to make that decision and all this sort of stuff, and the feeling of overwhelm and everything's going on, and he couldn't, all these balls he was trying to juggle in the air and all this sort of stuff. And I was saying, so what were you doing for yourself while you were doing all this stuff? You had this big business, you had all these employees, your family, your kids' sport, all this sort of, you're doing everything for everyone. Where was your time in there? And he's like, oh, fuck, mate, I don't have time. I didn't have time for doing that. I'm too busy doing everything for everyone else,
Yeah.
And it was coming from, a genuine guy who was just there doing everything for everyone else. But it got to the point where a series of circumstances led him to the feeling of overwhelmed to, wanting to take his own life.
Yeah, wow.
And I know, it's hectic. So, and so at the end of our conversation, I said, well, mate, I really, I'm so happy that you're here to start with. And secondly, I'd really like you to try and explore doing something for yourself. There must be something that you like, man.
Yeah.
And he said, I said, what about throughout the years? There's been something. He goes, oh, yeah, I like motorcycles. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I was riding a motorcycle at the time. And I said, oh, yeah, what sort of bike you got? And he's like, oh, this. And he was a trail bike guy, And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And he goes, yeah, I got this beautiful, trail bike. I said, when was the last time you rode it? And he goes, rode it? Fuck, mate, I don't even know if it'll even start. It's been in the shed for that long.
Yeah.
And I said, well, for what it's worth, man, I said, I think, you really want to do yourself a favour and you want to, get the bike out and maybe get it started and go for a ride.
Yeah.
Aside from, I'm an advocate for motorcycling because, I love motorcycles and I love riding bikes and there's an old saying that you never see a motorcycle sitting outside a psychologist's office. You don't. They're not there. You know why? Because they're not there.
They're out riding.
That's right. And so he said, oh, yeah, you know, and he kind of blew it off at the time, right? And he's, because at the time I remember him saying, oh, you know, my wife's, you know, might be on my back about it, whatever.
Yeah.
And I got to wind this story up. So anyway, fast forward about a month later, he contacts me via Facebook and he messages me by my Mark McConville comedian page, right? Hey, mate, how you going? Don't know if you remember me from the cruise, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, as soon as I said, yeah, man, I remember you. How you going? And he said, I just want to let you know that after getting off the ship, about a week later, I got my bike out of the shed and I was, you know, in the garage and I was working on it. I was pulling it all apart and my wife came in and she said, what are you doing? And I told her that I was getting my bike fixed because I wanted to start riding it again. And he said to me in the message, he goes, and her exact words were, well, thank fuck for that.
There you go.
You know?
See, he'd made an assumption.
That's right.
That
you know?
she wouldn't be happy about it.
That's right. And she said, thank fuck you're going out and you're doing something for yourself.
Yeah.
Right? And then he goes, oh, and I've since found a local trail bike riding club and I've joined this club and now I go riding every Saturday and it's awesome.
Yeah. Because often partners, we want our partners to be happy because when they're happier, they show up happier and they're better partners and dads and
all of that. You know, so
we can often make an assumption that taking time for ourselves is, you know, going to create more problems than you know the benefits outweigh the costs kind of thing.
We've really sidetracked ourselves
That's
from
a great
creative
story.
thinking.
Thanks for that. Yeah,
but yeah, it's relevant. No,
but
well,
it is relevant because it shows that you know, look how much happier he is. If he had done that as a preventative, maybe years beforehand,
ago, exactly,
he wouldn't have got to such a low point.
Yeah,
and self-care is not selfish is the tagline. That's another sticker.
No. There you go, yes. So creative thinking, imagination, original material, thinking outside the box. It's all cool, isn't it, creative thinking?
Yeah, love it.
So creative thinking involves generating heaps of ideas, right? Okay, so like I know when I'm working on bonsai trees, you know, you might start with a shrub and then you got to have your imagination going and get creative and you spin it around and you go, where would be the front, where would be the side, which branch would I keep, which branch would I, you know, because there's a whole formula to designing a bonsai tree and all, you know, so generating heaps of different ideas is one thing, but then being flexible about the ideas that you've generated. Like the amount of times that I've thought of this is going to be great, and then halfway through it, you've got to go, you know what, I've got to change this, you know.
Yeah, be flexible.
Oh, as a comedian all the time, we're constantly tweaking things that we thought was going to be, you know, there isn't a comedian on the planet, I reckon, that as it walked on stage, told a joke, the audience has died in the arse and they've thought to themselves, well, fuck, it was funny at home.
I better pivot.
You know, yeah.
Pivot.
Yeah. You know, so generate heaps of ideas is being creative and the ability to be flexible with those ideas and unique, you know, like something unique. And then when you know, there's one thing about creating an idea but then developing it, you know, like if we, as a comedian, as a writer, you know, like if you come up with an idea on something, you go, I think this could be a comedy bit here about this story or whatever, and then you just got to write it out until, you know, you generate as many ideas about this topic as you can possibly generate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
It's a skill that you can learn it. You can learn it, you know.
Yeah, and I think you know, it's often what gets in the way of our creativity is, like we talked about, the guilt, but there's also the self-criticism
The fear of judgment.
Fear of judgment, the expectation that often no one else is putting expectations on us. It's, it's often the expectation that we put on ourselves, whereas, no one else really cares that much. What's the saying? No one's thinking about you as much as you think they're thinking. You
Is that
think
another
they
bumper
are.
sticker?
Yeah, that's another.
I think, fear of judgment is probably one of the biggest things that kills creativity.
Yeah, I imagine that must be really hard as a comedian, initial barrier to just go out there and do your thing and not try, like the fear of judgment from your audience or,
Well, it's different now to what it was 25 years ago.
In what way?
There's a lot more judgment now.
I see. Yeah, with the topics that you choose.
All comedians are being judged. We're all being judged now.
Yeah.
When I started in 1998 and in the 2000s when I started going from amateur to pro, and
there were no limits then to what was funny.
People were smoking in bars and people were smoking on stage and all. It was a different. It's not that long ago, but it's a world away.
Yeah.
And so. There's a lot more scrutiny.
Yeah, so you have to be more considered about your topics.
Yeah, but that's the thing is it's one of those things that as a comedian, I don't ever want to tell other comics what they can and can't talk about. I just know what my theory is on the fact that, your job is for the amount of time that you're on stage, you have one job and one job only.
Make people laugh.
Make them laugh. 3 words.
Yeah.
Make them laugh.
So it doesn't serve any purpose for you to, I'm going to tell this joke anyway, even if it offends half the audience.
That's right.
It doesn't serve the purpose,
no,
does it?
Your job is to make them laugh.
Yeah.
And if you want to be a full-time professional comedian, whereas that is all that you do, you will adhere to those 3 words. Make them laugh. Spend the most amount of time on stage as possible making them laugh. And the easiest way to do that is to choose content that is going to relate to as many people in the audience as possible.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
Like brushing your teeth. You got a joke about brushing your teeth, everyone will relate to it.
Yeah.
Putting your socks on in the morning, something that everyone can relate to. You know what I mean? And that's why it's always surprised. Like it surprises me when comics choose. Well, I shouldn't say it surprises me. I understand that there's a need for comedians to get on stage and talk about politics and religion.
Yeah.
Right, okay?
Yeah.
They're 2 topics that we were told as kids, you don't bring these up at a dinner table because they're so divisive, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And to me, I've always avoided those topics as a comedian because I don't want to talk about something that's going to divide the audience.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I want to unite them, not divide them. So I don't talk about that. But I do believe that it is important that there are comedians out there talking about that sort of stuff because
True.
It needs to be, made light of or it needs to be,
let them take the heat from the people that don't like them.
Yeah.
They're prepared for that.
Yeah.
That's their wheelhouse.
That's it. And they do it well. A lot of the guys that do it well. You know what I mean? And so and I think it's important, like when I'm on stage, I want people to forget about all the bullshit in the news for the 20 minutes, an hour, half an hour, whatever I'm on stage and forget about all that stuff and talk about, weird shit, right?
Which is your specialty.
Yeah. Oh, good. Excellent. So you're going to admit that they're good jokes now? You're not going to, what'd you say the other episode? Oh, bad joke. Right?
You're going to let that go, Jodi.
Yeah, I know. All right, I'm working on it. Anyway, moving along. So
what's this scamper technique that
okay.
How comedians generate material?
This is something. Yeah, this is something that I've used in the past, right? So, so scamper stands for substitute, combine, adapt, modify, put to another use, eliminate, or reverse. Right? Okay. So this is, we're talking about creative thinking. So I'll give you an example. Combine. Right? So, okay. So here's the thing. We've got the Olympics coming up. We've got the Olympics coming up in Brisbane. We're hosting the Olympics, right? It's going to be a big deal. Everyone cares about it. I don't care. right? Okay, because here's the thing: is I think the Olympics need a rebranding, and because everyone's tuning out because the events are always the same, right? And I'm saying combine some of the events, right?
Right.
Combine the cycling with the javelin. Fuck, see how many of those suckers you can take out, right? Combine the high diving with the water polo. Fuck, that is entertainment right there, you know. So, combining things, modifying things, you know, like I'll give you an example of another joke that I wrote, one of my first ever jokes where an example of modifying something, right? So if I said to you, I've just taken possession of a brand new, straight off the production line, never been driven, what do you think is the next word coming out of my mouth?
Car.
There you go. But it wasn't. What I was saying is I've just taken possession of a straight off the production line, never been driven, wheelie bin.
Wheelie bin.
Right? Boom, you're laughing.
There you go.
Substitute.
Simple, yeah,
There you
effective.
Go. That's it.
Okay.
I know what I'm doing.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah. Okay, fair go. Come on.
Oh, I love it.
So there's all different ways that you can get creative.
Yeah.
You know, so that's
Being open to it as well, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's from a writing perspective, you know. But like I
Yeah.
said, creativity is, you know, even when you redesign, you know, I would say that I'm quite a fan. I get quite creative when I'm loading the dishwasher. I am a ninja at that shit.
I'm a master dishwasher stacker.
Oh, I am like ninja level status.
And are you do you go along and if someone's stacked your dishwasher, you just have a quick peek and restack it?
Every time.
Yeah, me too. If my kids stack the dishwasher, I'm like so grateful. I'm like, I'm so grateful that you done that. Yeah, thank you so much. I'm just going to go and restack it now. So what's this, the 20 ideas exercise?
Okay, so this is something that you'll be a fan of this, journaling.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so like if you've got a problem, right, or something that you want to, you know, generate ideas for, set yourself a task of force yourself to generate 20 possible solutions.
Ooh.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, if you've ever done this as an exercise, this is, you know, this exercise gets done a lot in leadership courses and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Right? Because it forces first five are obvious.
Yeah.
Right? Anything that you want to write down, bang, the first five are obvious. The second five get a little bit harder. The third five start to require some real thinking.
Yeah.
You know, like you're going, really, what the hell am I going to write here? But the last five is where creativity really steps in, you know, because you've eliminated the obvious, you've eliminated the harder, you've eliminated stuff that you've thought about. Now it's forcing you, this exercise is forcing you to get creative on those final five ideas. And you don't judge yourself, don't judge, you know, just generate them. Just generate these ideas and quantity will lead to quality.
Yeah.
You know, like
and
the
it's
first,
really pushing yourself a bit out of your comfort zone.
Absolutely,
as well,
you're pushing yourself. You know, a lot of comedians use that. You know, they'll get an idea and they'll just write on it. You know, like but here's the thing: is, I can't. Full disclosure, I can't say that that's a process that I use to write comedy because I'm not one of those gifted writers as a comedian. That like I know so many talented comics that are so good at writing.
Yeah,
you know,
it's a different skill.
You can. That's right. You can sit them in a room and say, write a joke about this paperclip. You know, and you'll come back half an hour later and they'll have half a dozen jokes and they'll all be great.
Wow.
And I've never had that skill. My comedian creativity comes from observing life and a situation will happen to me or someone else and I go, that's funny. Right?
Yeah, that's a lot happens in your routine is
right,
the actual real things that have happened that are hilarious.
Yeah. So I'm hilarious now.
Oh, well, I was being generous.
There we go. So, and then what I do is because I I'm not going to sit there and write it out because that's not my thing. I will chuck it in the memory bank, this story or this thing. I might write down just a dot point about an idea or thing, right? And then I will find a way of slipping that thing into a conversation with 3 different strangers.
Oh, you test it.
I test it. Right, okay.
Smart, yeah.
And people that don't know I'm a comedian.
Yeah,
Right?
okay.
It's important that, because I can't do it with my mates because they go, are you trying to bid on me?
Yeah,
Right, okay. So I try and slip it into a general conversation where I'm with people that I don't know. I'm at the shops, I'm at the service station, I'm wherever.
And if you get a chuckle, you're on a winner.
Yep, and if I can get 3 different groups of people to laugh at that thing, then I pretty much know from there it's stage worthy. And what that's also done is in those 3 instances, it's enabled me to figure out the tone, the timing, the pace, the words, which ones are the punchlines that are landing with people. If I can tag a punchline with something else. So in the time of road testing it, I've got it ready for the stage.
Yeah, cool. And did you come up with that yourself? That process yourself?
No, I don't. I had a lot of mentors, different types of mentors when I started doing comedy. So and plus I was studying acting at the time. You know, so I was kind of taking in. I was a bit of a sponge for everything.
Yeah, lots of
so
different pieces of information.
Yeah,
great strategy.
Yeah, so creative thinking. It's cool.
Yeah, and generating options, because then that leads us into decision making.
Decision making. At some point, we've got to make a decision.
Yeah, and as I was saying, I think at the beginning of the podcast, we make possibly tens of thousands of decisions a day, and a lot of them are automatic and reactive. But with important decisions that we need to make, they need a more measured, systematic approach, and giving ourselves, some great options for helping us to make those decisions. And it's learnable, this process. And, the research shows that, a lot of them are fast, automatic, and like I said before, emotional, but we need this more slow, deliberate approach, because decision fatigue is a real thing. I talk about it in nutrition and that as well, decision fatigue and willpower.
So when you say decision fatigue, that to me conjures up 2 aspects of decision fatigue. One, that you're fatigued from having to make too many big decisions.
Yeah.
Or you're fatigued because you're finding yourself unable to make a decision.
Well, they both, if you think about it, they're both feeding into each other, depending on the context of, say you've got a really big decision to make, and it happened to me in time of divorce. It was this big, huge decision, and you're thinking it and you're thinking it and you're thinking it. And, the fatigue comes from, I know I need to make a decision. It becomes so overwhelming, and you go through so many, scenarios. There's a lot to think about when you're making a big decision, depending on what it is. We can get fatigue, and it often leads into procrastination, because the decision becomes so overwhelming, and we get to a point where it is so overwhelming we don't make a decision. And it just kind of...
Which is a decision in itself.
Like you said earlier, it's a decision in itself.
Yeah.
So we're deciding...
Not to decide.
And not to decide. But we know, I think the worst part about procrastinating and sitting on a big decision like that is that it really, the tension builds and the fatigue builds, and it can often, metamorphose into this massive stress bucket.
Because you're overanalyzing everything?
You spend a lot of time in your head when you've got a big decision to make and you're not ready, or you haven't gone through a process of analyzing this decision, and it's just hovering. It's like wearing a heavy backpack on your back that you just keep putting the stress, and this not making a decision just keeps getting heavier and heavier, this weight on your shoulders. Right. Because nothing is happening to relieve that weight or getting you in the process of working towards making a decision, because and wearing this heavy backpack of this humongous decision and delaying it affects your quality of life.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It affects sleep. It affects
because you're lying in bed at night trying to process what you're doing.
So you're probably not sleeping. It affects energy levels. And then if we're not sleeping and we've got low energy, it affects the decisions that we make around food. We know that poor sleep increases our hunger hormones. We're craving carbs. We're craving sugar. Where it's very hard for us to make smart choices when we're in a decision fatigue, heavy backpack state.
Is that right?
So they all feed into each other.
So poor sleep management affects your decisions in relation to
absolutely
what your body craves.
So we know evidence shows that if you consistently have poor sleep, so say you're only having 4 or 5 hours sleep a night, it actually suppresses leptin, which is your it increases ghrelin, which is your hunger hormone, so I'm hungry, and decreases leptin, which is, okay, I'm full now, I've had enough to eat. Right. So you can do a lot of mindless eating, or as one of my kids causes it, I'm eating my feelings at the moment, stress eating, but it's actually hunger hormones, these chemical hormones that are created in the gut from poor sleep. So it makes it very hard then. Often clients will say, I don't have any willpower. I'm like, well, okay, we're going to shift the focus off taking it off willpower, and what can we do to improve your sleep, which isn't going to improve your energy, which isn't going to improve your blood sugar regulation, your metabolism. So you're going to be then in a less stressed state, making less decisions because you're not driven by making food decisions all day, which is really tiring in itself.
Yeah.
So that is, sleep is such a big, you wouldn't think it, but it's such a big part of, decision making.
Wow. So, I'm a big victim of analysis paralysis with too many options.
Yeah.
I find myself really struggling sometimes with making a decision when I've got too many things to choose from.
Yeah.
I can totally be that guy with a menu going, I don't know what I want to eat.
Yeah, I saw that at lunchtime. You way overthought it.
And then what did I end up having? Same as you, the barramundi.
It was delicious.
Yeah.
So we got to
kind of, what you're saying is we got to get out of the emotional decision-making space.
Yeah.
But some decisions are emotional,
I shouldn't say, no, I don't think saying getting out of the emotional space is right, because
relationship decisions are emotional.
Absolutely. But it's often, if you're avoidant, I spent a lot of my life in avoidance, and as I was saying, was it our last podcast about the brain wants to conserve energy, and it's going to that automatic place, and we get the perfection paralysis, decision fatigue, all those big words. We can, definitely create a life that's harder for ourselves the longer that we delay these kind of things, even when there is emotion involved. And I think when we're avoidant, the brain also wants us to keep us comfortable. So we avoid discomfort.
Yeah.
And often these big decisions that we make involve a level of discomfort, right? So then which often then leads into procrastination. Because what's procrastination? Procrastination is just avoiding something that makes us feel uncomfortable. So we end up perpetuating and, the wheel keeps spinning.
Yeah.
And sometimes, we have to lean into a bit of discomfort, and it can be an emotional space and an emotional decision. Like when I had to say goodbye to my dog Pepper, that was, that was a really difficult and painful decision. And I had to sit in the pain of that, but I knew it was the right thing to do. But often, big ticket things like, divorce or leaving a job, I understand all of those things, how difficult those decisions can be.
Yeah. So, well, once again, the 3 life skills merge into each other, so helping you make a decision, using the skills of critical thinking and creative thinking to generate your options. So
yeah,
let's talk about a bit of a decision-making matrix, which might help people that have got some big decisions to make. So firstly, listing your options, what your options are when you've got to make a decision, like I know we spoke about in, might have been the last episode about the pros and cons, of something. So listing your options, which engages your creative thinking brain, because you've got to list them all out, and then identifying the criteria in this decision is what really matters when you're making this decision. What is important to you? What's an important outcome?
Costs and benefits.
Yeah, and that's a critical.
Because maybe
you're being critically thinking there.
The decision might come at a great cost, but of very little benefit, or it could be of great cost, but also of great benefit and better quality of life. So, how do we reconcile? How do we reconcile that? How do we lean into that?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's the weight criteria.
Yeah, well, that's, and this isn't anything new. A lot of these decision-making matrices have been around for ages. So, once you've got your list of options, weighting them, into 1 to 10 as to the level of importance, if your decision that you're trying to figure out is to leave your boss or leave your workplace, and that you're going to on the options, it's like, well, I got this other job, but it pays less. Like, where does income sit on your matrix?
Yeah.
Is it number 10? Do you need that income, or can you sacrifice the income for peace of mind and a better workplace, and maybe, income sits at number 5 or something? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So score each of your options that you come up with out of 10, and then kind of you've got a numerical value of what it is that you want to try and do, because there are so many decisions in the past where in the end I have gone, I've analysed everything and I've sat on making a decision for a long time, and like most people listening, I probably knew the right thing to do right from the very start.
Yeah.
3 months before I actually made the decision, I knew in myself that's the right thing to do. But it's too big a decision, so I don't do anything.
Yeah.
You know, or I analyse and I go, oh, maybe I could do this, or maybe I'll try that, or
Well, sometimes we try to talk ourselves out of it as well because, you know, what's the saying? Change happens when the discomfort of staying the same is greater than actually making the change. Something like that.
That's a big bumper sticker, that one. That's a bit of a word bumper sticker.
It's a bit of a word salad.
Change happens when what?
So change happens when the discomfort of where we are becomes greater than staying where we are. So when it's, you know, we're staying safe right now.
I know where you're going. Yep, gotcha.
Yeah,
gotcha,
I might not be saying it very well.
No, that's all right.
But it's, you know, to get into change often, staying where we are
is going to be more painful than the pain involved in making the decision.
Yeah. So often we see in change and habit change is that a person won't actually commit or move forward until staying where they are is really uncomfortable. And it's greater than what the effort of making that change is. So, you know, there'll be a time where that, you know, decision is made, something will often tip us over the edge, you know, but yeah.
I like the idea of how one of the things I ask people to do is, you know, in the what are you looking forward to exercise in the next 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months. And you can also equate that to decision making, can't you? You know, how's this decision going to how am I going to how am I going to feel about this decision in 10 minutes, 10 hours, 10 days, 10 months, 10 years, whatever?
Yeah. My dad used to use it with me from when I was young, and I'd be worrying about expensive repairs on my car or something, and he'd go, in 4 years' time, it was a tactic he used for himself and mum, are you going to be worried about this? Are you going to remember how much this costs? And then as time goes on, you go, yeah, I'm not going to remember how much, you know, this cost or you know, yeah. So in 10 minutes, how am I going to feel about it in 10 minutes, in 10 months, in 10 years? It's a really helpful question because, you know what, in 10 months, in 10 years, I'm not going to remember this. It's, so true. It shows what really matters.
Yeah, it can be, you know, I feel sorry for I really do feel sorry for the people, or feel sorry for is the wrong. I empathise with the people that have to make massive decisions that affect the lives of so many other people. You know, like we applaud doctors and paramedics and all this who make split life decisions to save people's lives and all that sort of stuff, which is, you know, they're a lot of the time they're making their decisions out of instinct, you know, because of their level of training and all that sort of stuff. It steps in and their decision making is kind of automatic. You know, like I think the human, I'm fascinated by human engineering. You know, like I'm a big cricket fan, and I, unlike some people here, I'm actually not bad with hand-eye coordination. I'm pretty good with a bat and a ball, right?
It's one of us.
Right. But it fascinates me that we occupy a body, right, that I'll give you an example in cricketing terms, right? So the bowler bowls the ball and the batsman hits it, and he's hit it towards a fielder who's going to catch it, right? And so the bowler's bowled the ball at, you know, somewhere between 140 kilometres an hour. The batsman's hit it, and he's hit it to a player, and within a millisecond, a micro millisecond, that fielder, his brain has calculated the speed of the ball, the trajectory of the ball, where that ball is going to be at any point in time on its flight path, and he's set his body a goal of catching that ball and you see it time and time again. It's what's called a reflex catch, and the brain has moved hundreds of muscles to put a hand in the flight path of that ball to catch it.
It's amazing.
And that entire thing has happened in that quickly, you know. And the human engineering of it is incredible, you know. So some decisions are just out of our control, you know. But those people that have to sit in a boardroom and decide whether or not they're going to sack 100 people or 1,000 people, or they're going to sell their company or whatever, you know, that's some serious decision making.
Yeah, yeah, heavy stuff, and it's stressful.
Comes back to that's right. It comes back to how all the life skills integrate with each other.
Yeah,
you know, you're going to have to be self-aware. What this is, decision make. You know, if you've got to do one of these big decisions, be self-aware. How's that affecting you?
Yeah.
How am I going to cope with the stress?
Yeah.
You know, and it's a problem. So how am I going to be able to solve this? And leading into, you know, these three: creative thinking, critical thinking, and decision making. So it all works beautifully together, which
does.
Is kind of I've just probably given an integration, which I was just talking about. So, okay, so let's do a recap. Let's do a recap of this episode. So, how they all interact together. So, critical thinking evaluates the information.
Yep.
Yep. You're looking at me as if
are you going?
I have no idea where I am.
Are you answering this?
Do you know where you are? Do you want this
my
piece of
screen's
paper?
gone black.
Are you serious? My battery's gone. Creative thinking generates support. Okay, so critical thinking helps assess creative ideas, provides provides criteria for decisions. Creative thinking generates possibilities, gives critical thinking something to evaluate.
Yes.
Which is very important.
Evaluate and analyse.
Yep. And decision making, using critical thinking to evaluate, using creative thinking to generate new ideas and new options. Very important. So, yes, they all blend in beautifully, don't they?
Yeah.
So,
something to think about.
Something to think about. So, in closing, today we've covered the thinking trio: critical thinking, my friends, creative thinking, and decision making. And hopefully this leads to better thinking, leads to better decisions leads to a better life, and practice these skills as much as you can. So,
love it.
What are we going to be talking about next week, Jodi, in episode 3 of the Life Skills Masterclass?
Oh, aren't we talking about mindfulness, lifestyle, medicine?
No, that's episode 4, my dear.
Okay. My favourite, the connection trio. So effective communication, interpersonal relationships, and empathy, and how to connect with others meaningfully. I'm very passionate about that.
That's going to be, I'm really looking forward to that one.
Love that.
That's going to be a great episode.
Sorry, I skipped right to the end.
That's what happens when you're not following your notes like you said you were going to. But that's all right. It's okay. You know, make me yellow, make me orange.
I'm a professional.
Well, we're winging it here, ladies and gentlemen. We're being creative.
I decided
That's
to.
right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, you've actually had quite a creative input.
Oh, I've been very creative, and I decided to not know what was happening in the end.
Right. So that's good. Love it. Okay, so there you go, my friends. That's our second episode done of the Life Skills Masterclass, all about thinking this week: creative thinking, critical thinking, and decision making. And next week we are going to be diving into effective communication. Not only communicating, but communicating effectively. Interpersonal relationships, which is the heart blood of life.
Yeah.
You know, interpersonal relationships.
Communication is everything.
Yeah. And the relationships that we have with people is absolutely everything, and empathy. So another 3 that blend beautifully together. So, Jodi Allen, thank you very much for your company this week. Once again, you're a gem.
Thank you for having me. It's been good fun.
Awesome. And, yes, we'll see you next week, folks. As always, if you enjoyed this episode, share it with your friends, family, like, subscribe, share, follow. And yeah, as always, please be kind to yourself and be kind to those around you. We'll talk to you next week. Cheers.
See ya.
Thank you for listening. The information contained in this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes. It is not intended, nor should it ever replace advice received from a physician or mental health professional. Want more info? Visit thelaughterclinic.com.au. If you enjoyed the episode, please share and subscribe. Thanks again for listening to the Laughter Clinic podcast with your host, Mark McConville.